Welcome to Ope. I found a weird show. I'm Laura,
And I'm Lauren.
and we don't have Beans with us this week. And sadly, Beans has let us know that she is just a little too busy in her personal life for a podcast, which is completely understandable.
Yes,
So,
as we have said multiple times to each other in our friend group, life comes first. Personal stuff always comes first, even above the podcast. So we understand and we will miss her.
yes, and we will carry on with her spirit and weather theories, and hopefully we'll see how some of her other theories have panned out. But she's still gonna be hanging out with us outside of the podcast, so I'm sure if she has anything that she wants to express to you guys theory wise, we'll let you know. So we are continuing our recap of season 3 of the TV show From. Today we have episode 8, Thresholds. So this one, again, another very, we will see where that title comes up later. Some of these, very on point.
Yes, very literal.
Yes. So we start this episode with Boyd and Fatima going into that, like, cabin shed thing in the woods. That was the one that Boyd told Frank to go make a home in when he was like, "I'm not gonna put you in the box, go make a home in the shed" thing.
Right.
Um, and the one that he put Sarah in. And was all handcuffs or no? Uh,
I feel like this cabin is like oh, let's stash people here to hide them, but also now everybody knows about this cabin, so it can't really be
right?
used like that. But also, I have to say, when we were watching this, I was a little surprised, but also like very happy that Fatima and Ellis told Boyd. It wasn't just
Yes,
the two of us are going to run off and lie about the whole thing. It's we're actually going to tell somebody, and I would also run to my dad for assistance. So,
I would too. Yeah, no, they definitely needed an adultier adult.
hmm
Yeah, and which I think, like, I'm not surprised that they did this because, they had looped Boyd in with the other stuff, so at this point, they're like, we are panic mode, get your dad."
Yep.
And it was a good move. And Fatima is kind of explaining to Boyd what happened. She was trying not to eat the rotten food, and Tilly came in and was trying to help, but Fatima, like, had this anger in her, and she picked up the shears, and she just couldn't stop herself, and Boyd tells her, "You're going to stay out here for the night," and he puts up one of the talismans. Granted, at this point, I don't know if the monsters would even bother her.
They're like,
But
she's one of us. One
yeah,
of us. One. No.
it's more fun to keep you around, lady.
Yeah.
Um And he tells her that he and Ellis will come back in the morning and have a plan to move forward, and Fatima is, like, rightfully still very freaked out because this just happened, right? But Boyd tells her, like, "You're my family, and, we will figure out a way to deal with this."
Yeah, and I don't know that the guys realize as much that she's not freaking out because, oh my God, I could get caught. She's still freaking out at the, oh my God, I did this.
Yeah. Well, and I could do this again because this thing is inside of me that caused me to react this way.
And there's the whole like losing control. Like it's not even that
Mhm.
she reacted, it's that she probably feels like she doesn't have any control of herself anymore. So she's more scared of herself than anything else.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree. And she touches on that a little bit when she talks to Ellis later. And I'm hoping that he gets it a little bit, but I still don't think that either guy gets it.
It's hard to understand. I mean, granted, I've never been in this kind of state, but I think it is hard to understand unless you're experiencing it yourself.
Yeah, that's fair. And he so at this point he gives her some of the rotten food and she doesn't want it, but he tells her that whatever is happening to her, they don't want it to get worse, so if she needs to eat, then eat. And Fatima asks about Tilly, she's upset that they just left her there, and Boyd says, they're going to have to let someone find her. And Fatima starts crying, and Boyd tells her, like, you need to be strong. and Ellis needs her to be strong, for the both of them, and then Boyd leaves her out there. Que sera, sera. So,
Yeah,
it's a bit of a rough one.
just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do at this point. We kinda look at it a little bit throughout the show. I mean, that's what a lot of this episode is about, but it's like, I if I was in this situation, I don't know how I would deal with it.
Well, and we've seen multiple people do very bad things in this town and not really have any real repercussions. So I'm still just like, I don't know if like running away is the right thing to do. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of like ethical dilemmas in this episode, but also just like this town does not operate like a normal town. We've had multiple murders, granted, most of them were by Sarah, but she's still running around. Like maybe you just bunk them together and be like, all right, that's our murderer house.
Right? Oh, no. So at this point, Jim, Tabitha, Ethan, and Jade are coming back into town because they spent the night out at the settlement, after their little field trip. And the Matthews go into their house, and Jade, he's like, "I'll catch you later." And Ethan heads upstairs because he is not happy. Um, Jade heads to the bar, and he grabs a bottle and goes to pour, but he stops himself. Then so I think I'm wondering if he's starting to take Tom's words a little seriously, maybe.
I know Tom is dead, and therefore we should question if any of his words are like from the place messing with him, but like I think telling him to be sober is is something he
Yeah,
could listen to because he needs his brain.
right. Well, and that's the thing. Look, if Demon Land is telling you maybe you shouldn't drink, I'm gonna side with Demon Land. If you're getting that drunk that you're like doing string art.
Well, and don't get me wrong, I do think that there's valid reasoning for getting drunk in Demon Land. Like sometimes you just need to forget a little bit or at least to not feel as in control. Just like let it loose for a little bit. But you got to have some boundaries with it and if you want to make any sort of headway on these numbers or like all the puzzles that Jade's trying to figure out, you kind of need to be sober for part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm on board with Jay drinking less. I'm not saying you got to stop drinking altogether, but maybe just a little less, buddy. Uh, so at that point, he hears some noise in the bedroom in the back, and he calls out, and he grabs that bottle as like a weapon. It's just Henry. Henry apologizes, and Jade asks, like, "Who the fuck are you?"
And I had totally forgotten they'd never met before.
No, it's so funny when a new person gets to town, and it's like, wait, who are you? Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, new people. God.
He's been here for a few episodes, but then I'm like, I guess Jade was at the settlement, and
Well, and he didn't go to the town meeting.
yeah,
And Henry's up at Colony House. So yeah, Jade was like, "No, we headed to the tree right away." And then like I had all the numbers to like hyperfixate on. So Henry introduces himself as Henry, but you may know my son Victor. And and he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And Henry notes that it's quite the setup that Jade has with the numbers and the drawings and all the things, and asks if he's making any progress. And Jade, says, "No, not really." And Henry asks to grab a little pick me up, and Jade offers him the bottle that he was going to drink, which again, like, I think that says a lot about like that he might be taking Tom seriously. So we love
mhm.
that. And Henry pours himself a drink, and Jade goes over to look at his numbers. So out at Colony House, Marielle is coming back probably to check on Fatima. Um, and one of the red shirts finds Tilly in the greenhouse, and he calls out for help. And Elgin is on the porch with his camera. And at that point, Marielle calls out, like, "What's going on?" And the guy says, "It's Tilly." Elgin puts the camera down and we get another surprise picture. So, but we don't get to see what that is yet.
First of all, I love that we're just calling them red shirts.
Well, unless they give them a name. I mean,
It's accurate. It's just really funny that we've just decided that's what we're calling them.
they may have names and then I'm an asshole. But like I'm okay with that.
I feel like Clara's the only, like, non-main cast one that we've seen a name for that hasn't already been killed off. They get a
Yeah,
name and then they die.
that's the thing. Like we learned Reggie. We didn't learn them right away. The first time we saw him, we were just like the dude in the house and the chick in the house. And then we found out Reggie and Paula, cool, but then they like immediately died.
And same with, oh my god, Nikki?
Yep,
Yeah,
Nikki.
learned her
Mhm.
name, dead. And the dude that opened the window, Kevin? Something like that? Yeah. The moment that we learn someone's name who's been there for a while, we know they're gonna die.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad look for you.
I don't want a name. Don't give me a name.
Right, if I learn this particular red shirt, because this guy has had some he's been in the last couple episodes, and if I learn his name, I know he's destined for the end.
Oof. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, so, what you gonna do? But he got to find Tilly, and, out at the clinic, Julie stops into, like, Randall's bed area and asks, like, "Hey, have you seen Christy or Marielle?" Julie's headed home and she wants to like let them know and she also wants to thank them. And she asks and he's like, "No, they're out doing stuff." And she says, "Well, can you thank them for me for letting, me stay the night here?" And Randall says, like, "What? I don't get a thank you?" And Julie says, "Thank you, Randall, for letting me stay at the place that Marielle and Christy are letting you stay at."
Little sister energy.
fully, fully little sister energy. And then Julie tells him, like, we should go back to that place that we found. And Randall says, "When a place makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, it's enough for me to stay away." And Julie kind of keeps pushing him like that like, "Hey, we both felt it. And what if, it can help?" And Randall says, "What if it makes it worse? There's nothing here that wants to help us." And he tells her, like, "You got to stay the fuck away from that place." But, like, the look on Julie's face says, "I'm not listening to you."
I hate to say it, but I kind of agree with Randall. It's like, if a place is giving you such negative vibes like that, maybe you shouldn't go.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it a little bit later when, spoiler alert, she goes back. Um,
Spoiler. Yeah.
but but I don't know that she sees it as negative because for her, and like I said, we'll talk about that when we get there. But she says, all she hears right now is screaming, and when she got to that place, the screaming stopped. So that's not
Mm,
negative to me.
yeah, you're right.
So, well, we'll see. I will go, but I'm gonna bring more people with me so that I'm safe, as safe as I can be. But we go back to Boyd and Ellis, and they're walking up to Colony House, and Boyd is reminding Ellis that their story is that he and Fatima spent the night at the sheriff's station. And, Ellis is like, "What if we tell the truth and explain what happened? Tell him it wasn't her fault." And Boyd's like, maybe some of these people will understand that, but there's no version of them explaining this away." And Ellis says they're going to put her in the box. And Boyd is like, "That's not going to happen. I won't let it happen." Again, why did you rebuild that damn box?
I also don't think that the people would have put Fatima in the box. I
Yeah.
I just think that, like, I think it was a little different with the other people that they wanted to put in the box because Frank was generally regarded as like oh, he's just the town drunk who doesn't take care of his family well.
Mhm.
And then Sarah did multiple murders.
Yeah.
And I don't think I mean, I know she was close with Tien Chen and them, but it didn't seem like she was super connected to everybody, but Fatima is, like, the glue of Colony House. So I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people have been like, something isn't right."
Right. I think though, I don't know, man. I saw I was talking to somebody the other day and I was like, they just need to talk more. And the person's argument back to me was that the other people that, I want Boyd to talk to more, I want whoever to talk to more, wouldn't understand and wouldn't get it. And I kind of feel like they might be right after that town hall meeting.
That is true, but also I feel like the town hall meeting went so poorly because they had never communicated well before, and it's like, okay, we've all been through how many tragedies in the past, like, month alone?
Yeah,
Like, everyone's just on edge, everyone's at their boiling point, and then now suddenly we're wanting to talk about things, so
that's very
I
true. That's very true.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the fact that people didn't know what a faraway tree was, like, come on.
Yeah, like, I think if they'd talked previously about it and been like, "These trees can take you places, it's never, like, the same place, and you could be sent somewhere horrible and die," then maybe they wouldn't all have just immediately been like, "Yep, let's go." The first time that they'd been introduced to them was with
Yeah,
Tabby getting out, so they think of it as a good thing and, like, they're just not aware.
right. Yeah, no, that's very true. It's this place. See, this is why, like, I'd be Jade. I'd be like, there are answers places, and everybody would look at me like I was crazy, and I'd be okay with that. Um, but I would know things. I would know things.
But even Jade isn't aware of things half the time.
No, that's
So,
true.
'cause how many
Yeah.
times have we heard him say, like, "What's that?" Or, "What are you talking about?" Because people haven't been forthright.
It's like when he told Boyd about the numbers and stuff, and Boyd's like, "What about the other, what about
Right.
the other bottle tree? There's another bottle tree." Like, what? God, why isn't anybody talking?
Or talking to
Especially,
Tabby about the symbol and her being like, "Yeah, Victor and I saw that." "What?"
yeah, yeah, that's fair. Ugh, this place again. They need to have like a buddy system. But anyway, I digress. So Boyd tells Ellis to get himself together, go in the house, get up to his room, put some things in her bag, but don't pack too much, just enough for a couple days out in the shack. And, Ellis asks him, like, what are you going to go do? And Boyd says, I'm going to go buy us some time. And at this point, Kenny calls out to Boyd from the greenhouse and they part ways. Boyd heads over to the greenhouse, and Acosta is there, already looking at Tilly's dead body. So no one found her until the next morning. And Boyd asks if anyone saw anything, and Kenny tells him, not that they've heard so far. And he asks if they know when this happened, and Kenny's like, it could have been this morning or it could have been last night. There's a lot of people coming in and out, and with the snow and everything, it's hard to tell. And Acosta says, the things that come out at night, she's guessing, like, they don't use gardening shears. And Boyd's like, nope. But granted, you could have played that as like, I mean, but they weren't using metal rods in people's heads before either.
I was just gonna say, they don't seem to stick to the same rules every time, so it could have been.
Yeah, I would have played it as the monsters if I could have.
Yeah, I would've said the
Um,
monsters are playing psychological games lately, so maybe they're trying to make us think one of us is murdering people.
yeah. So Acosta says, like, we need to question everybody. And Boyd's like, great idea. Start talking to people. And, I'll go take Ellis out to walk the road. And Acosta's like, walk the road? He's like, yeah, this could have been done by people we know or people we don't. We need to rule out the possibility that we had any new arrivals that we don't know about. And Boyd says to Kenny, like, "Hey, I know you're not my deputy anymore." But Kenny's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, no, we will," which he did a good old, "Yeah, no," and I was like, "I see you. I see you, Midwest." And he's like, "We will, we'll start the interviews." And, so they kind of walk out, but, like, Acosta stops and turns around and she asks Boyd, like, "We're good, right?" And Boyd says, like, "Let's find out who did this." And at this point, Donna comes into the greenhouse and she tells Boyd, like, "We have to talk to Sarah." Boyd's like, "It wasn't her." But, like, Donna says, "You don't know that." And she's, and Donna is not the only person who's going to ask about Sarah. And she puts a sheet over Tilly and says, "We, like, you and I don't think that Sarah did this. Fine. They'll just have to go talk to her and make sure." And Boyd, tries to talk, but, Donna says, "Hiding from these things every night is one thing, but this is something that people are going to have to blame someone for. And if they don't figure out who it's going to, who did it, it's going to be Sarah whether she did it or not." You know, and so he tells her, like, "Well, you get things straightened out here and then meet me at the station and then we'll go talk to Sarah together." And so Donna leaves and Boyd stays and he pulls back the sheet and looks at Tilly, and, like, you can tell he's feeling a lot of guilt over this, but he's going to do whatever he has to do to protect his family. So, but we know that Sarah's been with Victor all night.
Yes.
So she does have an alibi. Um, but I do get why people would think it was her, because she is somebody who has killed people.
She's got a bad reputation and prior history. Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of Sarah, back with her and Victor in the basement, she's, like, making Jasper talk. Um, she's making him say, like, in a weird voice, "Do you wanna play today? I can tell you a secret." And
She's trying so hard.
she is. And Victor is just so frustrated. And, like, he's like, "You're not doing it right, no, not like that." And she's like, "I'm doing the best I can." And she starts getting frustrated with him, like, "I don't know what you want, Victor." And then Victor's freaking out some more. And, like, he goes and, like, smacks something in like, a fridge or something that's down there. And he tells her, like, "You need to make him talk, and you're not doing it right." And, like, he's even getting, like, right in her face and yells at her, like, "You're not good enough." And,
Right. I was like, "Damn, Victor."
well, I don't think the man has slept in a few days at this point
Yeah,
either.
but still.
No, and then he starts smacking himself, and Sarah gets up and tries to get him to stop. So he is just, that boy is in a rough state. And we go back to the Matthews house. Tabitha's in the kitchen, and Jim comes in, and he tells her, "Look, I know you want all this to mean something, and this place has convinced you that you need to save these children." He tells her, "It's got you trying to fix something that we can never fix." And then he asks her, like, "Do you know why the phone is off the wall?" "It's because it rang the other day, and the voice on the other end said his name was Thomas." And she has been ignoring him at this point because also kind of fuck you, Jim.
Right. Sorry, Jim, I would also ignore you.
Yeah. But she she looks at him, at this point, and, he continues on, uh, "Something here knows things about us, and it knows which buttons to push." But they get interrupted, by a knock on the door. It's Sarah. She apologizes for even being there because she's like, like, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but Victor
She's
is in."
brave.
Yeah. But I think that Sarah is inherently, eh, eh, she wants to help people. She wants to fix things. She got sucked into something that, you know,
I
it's
know what you
rough.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah
Yep.
got put in a rough one. I'm cool with her redemption arc.
I am too. I think they've done a good job of it, and It's also nice that the town is, like, 3 steps behind because they haven't seen all of the stuff that we have. So, like, yeah, we see that she's got a redemption arc, but they're still working on it.
I mean, truthfully, if Tabitha and Jim never forgive Sarah, I understand. She tried to kill their
Absolutely.
son.
Yeah, there's a big difference between us being on board with her redemption and them,
Yeah,
and they're valid in that.
absolutely. So, but she tells Tabitha, like, hey, Victor is in my basement and he is in really bad shape. He said that he only wants to talk to Tabitha. And Tabitha is like, okay, wait here, I'll get my coat. Because, of course, she's going to help Victor. Like, they have a bond. Victor has saved her. Victor packed her a nice snack lunch. Like, of course she's going to go help Victor, whether Jim likes it or not.
Well, he's one of her kids now, let's be real.
Absolutely. Yeah, fully adopted. Uh, so over at the clinic, Elgin's in there, and Christy and Marielle are not there. And Elgin is kind of going through a cabinet or, through some of the supplies, and Randall walks up and Randall says, like, if you're looking for drugs, you're in the wrong spot. And Elgin's like, no, 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 I'm looking for a band-aid. I cut my foot. And Randall asks him, like, hey, did you hear about Tilly? And it's really fucked up. And then Randall apologizes. Look at another redemption arc happening. I still am not fully on board with Randall.
It annoys me, but I'm like, "Ugh, fine, I'll accept it if he continues down the right path."
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I'm watching you, buddy. Like, at this point, I'm not mad at you because you were going through a lot, but, like, I'm watching your ass because I don't trust you.
Yeah, you're on probation, but we'll get there,
Where,
probably.
like, Sarah, I trust a little bit more to do things that are in the best interest of everyone, or what she thinks is the best interest of everyone. Where, like, Randall is hit or miss for me. Because
He is,
the
yeah.
problem, though, is he does do shit that's good for everyone.
That's exactly what I was just gonna say, of, like, he does have a history of helping. So, he just needs to get his anger under control and, like yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, now that he's not deep in paranoia of, like,
Yes.
I think that helps.
I completely agree. Now that he's not in the whole, like, "Oh, you guys are out to get me. This is all fake."
Yeah.
There's a chance.
Yeah. So, and then at that point, Randall apologizes to Elgin, that he's sorry that he was so hard on him on the bus that day. Elgin was right. They should have turned around. Granted, they were past the point of turning around anyway, but and then Elgin tells him, like, hey, I'm sorry I threw up all over your shirt. And Randall walks off, and Elgin grabs like a blood draw kit. So that's not great. That's not a band-aid. That's the opposite.
He just got confused.
Yeah,
Yeah, they look the same.
I'm a little worried for our sweet boy Elgin. Uh, I feel like he going down some Sarah route.
Yeah, I don't love this for him.
Mm-mm. No, but I am a little slight tangent here, but I think he and Sarah are very much the same type of people.
Agreed. And maybe that's why they both
Are
get these
vulnerable.
are vulnerable, but, like, get these visions or voices or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I think it is too, that they're very similar in kind of their personalities and mentalities. And so it that may make them a little more susceptible to some of the things manipulating them.
But also it's not been proven if it's a good or a bad manipulation.
I don't trust Kimono Lady.
I don't trust Komodo Lady either, but again, it's not been proven one way or the other.
Anybody who promises me they can get me home, I'm not trusting,
True.
other than Jade.
So true. You know what? Facts.
So, back in the basement, Victor has calmed down. He's sitting there, but he is still, like, clearly agitated, and he's rocking back and forth. And like I said, I don't think this man has slept in days. And Tabitha comes down, and Victor gets very excited. He tells her to sit and to take Jasper, and Tabitha asks, like, "What are we doing?" And Victor tells her, like, "You were there when I remembered Eloise, so you are the one who can make Jasper talk." And Tabitha is still, like, "What?" And, and Victor says, like, "Jasper needs to tell me, and you need to make him tell me." And Tabitha's like, "Tell you what?" And Victor tells her, like, "Jasper needs to tell me the secret that he told Christopher because it can help us." And Tabitha's like, "I'm sorry, but Jasper is just a doll." And Victor, like, starts to get upset. He starts crying and he's like, "No," and saying, like, "She has to be the one." And he starts yelling and he gets up and he starts hitting the wall. And Tabitha gets up and goes to him and tells him, like, "Stop. Don't do that." And she grabs his arms and she makes him look at her and she tells him, like, "You're okay. It's okay." And, like, she asks him, "Do you wanna draw a picture?" Which I was like,
Oh.
"Oh." And and Victor says, "No, it doesn't work like that." Like, the he's like, "The picture's remembered, so I don't have to, but I never drew a picture of this, so now it's gone. I can't remember it." And Tabitha is just very soothing with him and telling him, like, "You're okay. It's okay. Sit down. Just have a seat." And then she pulls her chair right next to him and she's like, "Nothing's gone." And then she starts asking him questions to kind of, like, help bring back his memory. And she's like, "Tell me about the doll." And Victor tells her, like, "Well, this is Jasper, and I heard him once telling Christopher things that we need to know, but I don't remember them." And Tabitha tells him, like, "Then we'll remember it together just like last time." Yeah, he needed a mom.
Yes. Also, I just have to say that up until, like, this point, I was still on board with, like, this doll's just gonna randomly start talking to them. It's gonna happen. 'Cause I just fully believe in Victor, even though we've established that he's not a reliable narrator. But I don't know, it's like
Yeah,
Demonland talking dolls, that's on board. Like, yeah,
I
that
mean,
tracks.
it did scream at Jade that one time,
Right?
but that was a vision. Um,
This could
maybe.
have been a vision too, maybe. I don't know. Demonland,
Yeah.
shit
Well,
happens.
that's that's the thing though, like, 'cause I didn't think the doll was gonna talk because for me, I'm like, "Nah, anything Victor remembers, we gotta take with a grain of salt until we get there, right?"
Yeah.
So,
No, I was fully on board. I was like, "I believe you, Victor, let's go."
I was like, "I don't know what was talking, but I don't know that it was Jasper."
No. I
So
was like, "I
back at
don't
the
trust that doll. He's sus."
Yeah. I mean, oh, hey, don't get me wrong, I don't trust Jasper either. I expect he may still talk to us, we don't know. If that thing starts screaming, we're having a bonfire. Um, so back at the Matthews house, which okay, and also, like, man, if only Jade would have grabbed that damn thing when he was down there in the tunnels. Back at the end of season 2, would have saved
Yeah.
Victor a whole trip.
He wouldn't have told Victor he had it.
No, he wouldn't have. Oh,
So Victor would
man.
have kept going through the tunnels and gotten stuck.
Yeah, that's true. So back at the Matthews house, Julie comes in and she, asks how things were at the settlement, and Jim says, "Not great." And then he's like, "Hey, can you watch Ethan because there's something I have to go take care of." Julie's like, "Ah, okay." And she goes up to talk to Ethan. He's still upset. And Julie asks him, like, "Hey, do you want to go see something really cool?" This, of course, piques our little quest lover. So again, I think I would have brought more help than Ethan. Bless his little heart. But but I do love their connection. I do because, like, if we look at them from the beginning of the show to now, like, even then though, like, you could tell they were close, but, like,
Right.
they were more picking at each other. Now they're more, like, supporting each other.
Yeah. And I think Julie's probably like, I'm never gonna escape this parentification thing because we just had this conversation of like, I can't be raising your son for you, and here we are again.
Right. Yeah. Like, sure, Dad. I mean, but also, like, does anybody else feel like Julie's just kind of like it almost feels like to her parents that she is important when she is able to watch her brother. Like,
Yeah.
that is when Julie is important. Otherwise, like, Julie got left in the town when they went out to the settlement. Julie got,
Yep.
it's like, uh, she's your kid too. She's older, but she's your kid too.
I completely agree. Yeah,
Mm.
she's basically just the backup child, even though she's the oldest somehow. I don't know how
Yeah.
that works, but yes.
So back at the bar, Henry is telling Jade about his wife, having the visions of this place. And Henry says he thought she was crazy, but he should have listened to her. Jade says, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? And Henry asks him, like, what exactly makes him think he's going to be the one to figure this out? And he says, I imagine a lot of pretty smart people have tried. And Jade's like, I'm smarter. And at that point, Jim comes in. This is what Jim had to go take care of. He had to go yell at Jade. Fucker. Shut up, Jim.
That's all he does though. He's like, I gotta go do something, and it's literally berating somebody else.
Yeah.
Please.
Uh, so Jim, tells him, like, it's done right now. Do you understand me? And Jade's like, what are we talking about? And Jim asks him, who the fuck do you think you are dragging my wife and child out into the middle of the woods? And Jade's like, first of all, I didn't drag anyone anywhere. And Jim tells him he's only going to say this once. Tabitha is not in a good place right now, and she doesn't need Jade filling her head with ideas about how somehow she's this chosen savior and responsible for getting everyone home. And at this point, Jim is like fully in Jade's space. And he puts his hands on his shoulders and Jade tells him like get your fucking hands off me. And Jade tells him like filling her head with ideas. What is she, 9? Like she came here. She saw the drawings, she recognized the statue, and and he continues on, you know what? I don't need to explain this to you. And Jim tells Jade, that he is a lonely, selfish, narcissistic asshole who doesn't give a shit about anything but himself and his ego, and that if he wants to kill himself trying to figure this out, then he can be his guest, but Jim has a family to look out for. Jim has people who mean more to him than Jade will ever understand. Which, like, fuck you. Shut up, Jim.
But also, projection much?
Yeah. Right? Yeah, because it's not like Jim hasn't gone off on harebrained ideas and ugh.
And lets his ego dictate everything that he does and thinks he's so smart that he can do it and he's the one that's going to save everybody? Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
Jim.
Yep. And Jade tells him, like, I'm getting a little tired of the sanctimonious blue collar bullshit. And he says, you want to talk about your family? Let's talk about your family. Of the two of
Oh.
us, right? Of the two of us, I'm the only one doing a goddamn thing to help them. And Jim scoffs at this. And Jade points to the stuff like he's working on, like the numbers in the tree, and he says, "Look at this. You see this? This helps people." And Jim says, "No. You know what this does? This shows people how you're the smartest fucking prick in the room." And Jade says, "So what if it gets us home? Who gives a shit?" And so Jade has had enough at this point, and he's not doing this. He's not wasting his time anymore. And he tells Jim like, "Hey, if you want to keep your kids under lock and key, more power to you. But Tabitha is a grown up, and if you have a problem with what she's doing, go talk to her. Right? Mhm.
Hell yeah. And also, just real quick, the comment that Jim made about, like, "Oh, all the number shit making you look like the smartest prick in the room." It's like, are you jealous? Is that what this whole thing's about?
Right.
Because that's not a bad thing if he's actually smart enough to figure what these numbers mean, if they mean anything, then, like, that's a good thing, right? Why are you
I
pissed?
I think your comment about projection is so true because Jim has multiple times now wanted to be the hero. And I think he's pissed because he's realized he can't be.
He is not the chosen one.
You are not. And then he's like belittling Tabitha because, oh, you think you're chosen. You think you can figure this out. You can't. What a fucking asshole. Mm,
Not a very good husband, not supportive.
yeah. Shut up, Jim. And Jade like heads towards the door and Jim's like, "We're not done here." And Jade's like, "Yeah, we fucking are." Slams the door in his face. And Henry has just been chilling at the bar the whole time watching this.
Love that though, because it's like they've been having this all out screaming at each other thing, and Henry's just like sipping his drink.
Yeah. Well, and then he's like, "Well, that was certainly productive."
Drinking a show. Let's go.
I'm on board with Henry. Uh,
Same.
so out at the cabin shed thingy in the woods. Wait, can I just mention one thing about this cabin shed thingy?
Absolutely.
So there is a giant hole in one of the walls, right?
I saw that too.
I'm like, how are you safe? How are you safe?
That is why I'm like, what are the rules with the talisman? Because that's not an enclosed space, but neither was the cave that they were found in.
Right, right. So I don't really understand how this works, but I wouldn't feel safe with that.
No. Even just like regular elements, it's freaking cold there.
Yeah, like I don't know, put a board across there or something. God. Okay, that was driving me nuts the whole episode.
No, I'm with you. They've fixed up some of these other places, but the place that they're using as like a waypoint to get to the settlement, they're just gonna leave it?
Well, yeah. Well, no, they're using the talisman cave for that.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
But still, like this is there. They've used it multiple times. At least Boyd has. Go get a damn board. And you love handicrafts.
Yeah.
Uh, so, anyway, out at the shed cabin thingy, in the woods, Ellis goes to talk to Fatima, and you can see she has been eating some of the rotten veg, um, because it's open, and she is in like a very bad mental space, as you would be.
Mhm.
And Ellis comes in and he comforts her and he tells her, like, we're going to get through this. And she tells him, like, you and your dad need to stop saying that. I killed someone. And Ellis tells her, like, we're in this together. Like, he tells her, like, I don't care if we have to take a talisman and go live in the woods. And Fatima tells him, like, you don't understand. Like, whatever is inside of me, it's still there. And what if it happens again? What if I do something to you? Like, and I wish they would understand this. But he tells her, like, nope, she's stronger than that. They're stronger than this that's going on. And he gives her the stuff and his lucky handkerchief and he tells her like I love you and that we're going to be okay and he walks out. And I wish for once a man would listen. Um
There's something to be said for being overly positive to the point that you are almost dismissing someone's concerns. Like,
Yeah.
everybody wants a supportive partner. We've been ragging on Jim for not being supportive, so I can't be like, "Oh, Ellis, stop being supportive." But also, there's a balance.
Yeah.
You can't just be overly, "Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay." No, sometimes it's not. Sometimes there is a big enough problem that you have to sit there and be like, "Ah, stuff's real shit right now. How can we fix this instead of just ignoring it?"
Yeah, absolutely. But he's gone now, and Fatima sits down with a handkerchief and like smells it, and then she looks up and she sees Kimono Lady. And this freaks her out quite a bit, as it should. But then Kimono Lady disappears. This is not a good sign.
Oh, no. No, no.
So at Colony House, Elgin is in the bathroom with that blood draw kit, and the photo that he got earlier was a blood bag. And he like stabs himself and starts to draw blood and put it into like some jars. And he gets another photo at this point of the shed that Fatima is in.
First of all, blood in jars doesn't seem very sterile to me. Um, I'm a little concerned about that. Second, I think when Fatima saw Kimono Lady in the cabin is where I was like, "Is Fatima Kimono Lady? Like,
Mm,
is this?" I mean, I don't know if you've seen Hill House because I haven't, but I've heard about it. And like the whole like Nell was bent neck lady the whole time thing, but it was
mm.
just like her future. So it's like, is this another similar situation? Because we know stuff's weird here, so maybe.
That's true. Yeah. I don't think so, but
But
I
you never
can't
know.
rule it out. So, back at the bar, Henry asks Jim, like, hey, do you mind if I give you some unsolicited advice? And Jim's like, I don't know why not at this point. And Henry tells him, like, maybe sometimes when you're with your wife, you should shut the fuck up and listen.
Hell yeah, Henry. We love Henry now.
We
He's the
do.
best.
He told Jim to shut up. He did what we've all wanted to do.
And he went a step further and it took it to shut the fuck up
Right?
because Jim needs to hear that.
And Henry tells him, like, I look at you right now and all I see is myself standing there 40 years ago. Like, I was so sure that I could fix my wife, that it never occurred to me that she wasn't broken. Like, damn. Henry out here
Mic drop.
spitting facts. And he says, that arrogant fella who stormed out of here, he
Forget. Nah.
he says he was right about one thing. What Jim is doing, how tight he's holding on to everything. Jim may tell himself that he's doing it for his family, but he's actually doing it because he's scared and he's doing it for himself. And Henry tells him, like, hey, I'm probably the only guy in this whole place who can tell you that and say it's true. And which, I mean, fair, like, this is a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim comes over and sits down, and Henry asks, like, hey, do you want a drink? And Jim says, no, my dad was a drunk. Henry's like, mine too. And Jim tells him that the night that Julie was born, after Tabitha had fallen asleep, he went to a bar across the street from the hospital and asked the bartender for the tallest glass of whiskey he could pour. And Jim stared at that drink for hours, and he promised himself that he would be a better father to his kids, a better husband to his wife. And Henry grabs another glass and pours a drink and sets it in front of Jim. And Jim's like, what are you doing? And Henry tells him, like, I'm giving you a chance to renew your vow. Sit here as long as you like. I could use the company. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I love this. Henry's
Hell yeah.
Tabitha was sent there to get Henry just to get Jim back on track.
She went there just so that her husband could hear that he needs to shut the fuck up. Love
Yes.
that. Uh, but also, like, I think Jim saying that him not drinking was his way of like being a better parent. He's like, I want to be a good parent to my wife and children, and tying that to alcohol is very interesting because it's showing that he has a very linear view on like what makes a good parent, and
Yeah.
he's not a good parent in a vastly different way. Like there's multiple ways to be a shitty parent, Jim.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. So Ethan and Julie have arrived out at the ruins. And Ethan asks, like, oh, what is this? And Julie's like, I don't know. But if I tell you something, can you promise not to tell mom and dad? And Ethan's, of course, like, yes, ma'am. And she tells him, like, ever since she woke up Something has been happening to her. She hears things in her head. Um, you know, the and she's hearing people scream and it just won't stop. But yesterday when she was out here with Randall and when she saw this place, everything went quiet for the first time since she'd woken up. You know, and she's like, "That's good, right?" Or Ethan asks like, "That's good, right?" And Julie says like, "I don't know." You know? She says it feels like, something wants her to go in there, but she doesn't know what to do. She's scared and she asks Ethan like, So what should I do?" She keeps thinking about this sounds like those stories that he's always telling. If she was a character in one of those stories, what would she do? And Ethan tells her she's at a threshold, which, like, I get that Ethan is Quest Boy and knows all the stuff, but I'm like, this one might be, I think we all commented on that when we were watching the show. This might be a little above Ethan and his understanding of stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll go with it. Maybe it was in the Cromonocle. So he tells her it's always scary, but the hero has to be brave. And then Ethan tells her, like, we can do it together if you want. And they grab hands and they walk into the ruins. And Julie walks into where Boyd was, like that room where Martin and all that stuff was. And she looks around and she sees Randall, Marielle, and herself all chained to the wall and screaming. So, like, that's where they were when the buggies had got them.
Yeah. And I did love the transition, by the way, of like her
Yeah.
in the woods to this. We've seen this transition a few times with Boyd, but like it's just so cool.
Yeah. No, it's very neat. But back in the real world, like, she's having what looks like a seizure, and Ethan is trying to help her, but he can't, so he runs off to get some help. At least she didn't go there alone.
Right. That would have been awful.
Ugh. So, back in the basement, Tabitha and Victor are talking, and she asks him, like, you know, "Do you remember where you were when you heard Jasper talking?" And Victor says it was in a basement. And she's like, "Do you remember which basement?" He's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, what were you doing in the basement?" But Victor is still getting frustrated because he doesn't remember. And Sarah chimes in and she's like, "Was it nice that day?" And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "What was it like outside?" And Victor says, "Well, it was sunny, because we were playing. He and Eloise were playing hide and seek. Eloise was good at it, and he could never find her no matter how hard he looked." And Tabitha asked him, "Well, where did you look that day?" And he says, "Everywhere. The bar, the diner, the houses, the church." And the church triggers something for him. And he says, she'd never hidden in the church before because Eloise said that it always scared her. But he'd already looked everywhere else. And that was when it happened, when he heard Jasper talking to Christopher in the basement. So now they have at least pinpointed a location. I love this little journey that Tabitha, Sarah, and Victor are going on.
It's very cute.
It is.
Yeah. I've said that multiple times of like I love when like characters just have these like growth moments together and they connect. And this is another one of them.
Yep. So back with Acosta and Kenny, they're questioning people at the colony house, and the red shirt who found Tilly and another red shirt woman are sitting at the table, and they're asking him questions. And the guy's like, "Why aren't you guys talking to the one person in town who actually murdered someone?" And Acosta's like, "Excuse me, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, you don't know about Sarah?" And the woman that's with him says, "Look, I don't know why you're talking to us. It's pretty obvious who did this." And Kenny says, like, "Of course, we're going to talk to Sarah after, but right now, you guys need to answer some questions." And Red Shirt Man says, like, "Didn't she kill your dad? The fuck are you defending her for?"
He's not defending her. He's just like there's a process. We got to get the witness statements first before we just
Right.
start accusing people.
Yeah, no offense, guys, but you found her and you guys are all here near where it happened. Sarah's in town. Like,
We
we
don't
we
just jump to going after one person.
exactly. So at the sheriff's station, Boyd and Ellis are arguing. They don't really have a plan, and Ellis still wants to tell everyone, but Boyd says, like, I said no. And Ellis says, like, we're running out of time. Maybe if we explained to them and give them time, they would understand. And Boyd asks him, like, so what? In the meantime, you two are living out in a tent? And Ellis like, yeah, with the talisman, we'll be safe. And Boyd tells him, like, but you won't be safe from her, which, I mean, I think is what Fatima fears too.
It's a good point.
Mm-hmm. And Ellis is like, is that what you're afraid of? And Boyd tells him, like, whatever made her do that is still in her. But Ellis argues, like, she would never do that to me, sir. Sweet, sweet baby boy. Yes, she would. If she was like, I mean, like, literally, you don't know what's going on and what's causing this, if it is a physical or a mental thing. And your mother literally almost killed you at one point because of a mental thing. And that is what Boyd is afraid of.
Well, and I think Boyd is also remembering back when he had the worms and was, like, hallucinating things, pulled out his gun on Mary.
Mm
Like,
hmm.
he knows what this place can do and knows that something is up with Fatima and she's just not herself. Sure, if she was 100% herself, no, she would never hurt Ellis. But she's not.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So at this point, they're arguing about it, and Donna walks in and she tells them, like, hey, I got a bunch of people ready to march on Sarah's house with torches. But she sees like something's going on. Donna always be walking in on conversation.
She's got great timing somehow. Every
Yeah.
time.
And Boyd tells her, like, it wasn't Sarah, it was Fatima. And Donna is shocked. Because again, I don't think anybody would have ever thought it was Fatima, even with what she's going through. So, but not many people know what she's going through. So, leaving Colony House, Costa is asking Kenny about Sarah. And she says, like, you didn't think it was worth mentioning the girl who already murdered two people? He's like, it's not that simple. She's different now, and Boyd trusts her. And Acosta says, like, who gives a shit what Boyd thinks? And at that point, Ethan comes running up screaming for help. And he tells them that Julie's shaking on the ground and they need to come help her. So they run off with him. And we go,
Sorry, I was just gonna say I'm very worried about Acosta having these thoughts about Sarah, because like I just don't trust that she's not gonna be like, I'm a cop. I need to go after this woman who's killed people because apparently no one's done anything about it.
right, right. That's the thing is like, and also like, ma'am, yes, you are a cop, but that means you need to like, you can't just jump to conclusions. Now, granted, I think they do need to talk to Sarah. I think that everybody is valid in that.
Yeah.
But
I yes.
she has alibi. She has an alibi, so calm your tits.
And
But we know that
also,
they don't.
oh yeah, no. No one will ever calm their tits here. Um, but also I'm just like, Acosta, you're a cop, but this is not your jurisdiction.
Mm, true. Also, ma'am, you're a beat cop, not a detective. I don't want to be
Oh
an
god.
ass, but
I'll be an ass. Ma'am, you suck.
yeah, exactly. So, back in Julie's vision, Randall, Marielle, and Julie are still chained to the wall, but they disappear. And she sees Martin. And she hears Boyd yelling from down at the bottom of that well chimney thing. And Martin says her name. And she's like, how do you know my name? And he says, hey, he needs that rope, please. And so she puts the rope down the well. So now we know how that happened. And Martin thanks her for, but tells her, like, it's not safe here. You need to leave. And she is still so confused. But she walks through a door and she ends up in the tunnels. And she hears her mom and Victor talking from the night that the house collapsed. And she starts to call out for her mom, but she also starts to hear like the Ankui screaming stuff. And at that point, Kenny and Acosta get to her and they pull her, like they pick her up and pull her out of the ruins. And this snaps her immediately out of the vision. And she grabs Ethan and she holds him and they ask what happened and like if she's okay. So that's crazy.
Fun little portal to another place there. Love that.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, but that's crazy that, like, we got an answer, but we also did not get an answer.
We got no an Oh, we did get the answer about the rope. That is
We got
true.
yes, but we need way more information about this. This needs to be delved into.
Well, it is confirming that there's some timey-wimey bullshit going on.
Yep, yep.
So, I'm like, maybe Kimono Lady is Fatima. Just saying.
Could
It's
be, could
it's
be.
possible.
There
We
are
shall
some
see.
other crazy theories that at some point I'll tell you about that are very timey-wimey.
I
Um,
cannot wait to hear this, but let's go.
so back at the sheriff's station, Boyd is telling Donna what happened, and Donna says, like, you need to bring Fatima back to town. And Boyd's like, I can't do that. And until, and Donna says, what? Until you manage to resurrect Tilly? Like, Donna says, like, I love Fatima as if she were my own. But we have a town to worry about here. And if he tries to hide this and people find out, and Boyd cuts her off and says, like they'll understand. Just like they did with Sarah. And Donna says, is that what you think?
Uh,
And she's like, "You think they'll understand? You think they understand about Sarah? No, people swallowed it, but they certainly did not understand it. They did that because Boyd told them to." And Boyd's like, "Well, they'll do the same thing with this." And Donna's like, "No, it's different. It's not going to work this time because they don't believe in you anymore. Not like they did."
oof.
Yeah, but it's true.
That's tough. It is true, but that's just, like, tough to hear.
Yeah. And then at this point, Ellis chimes in and he's like, I'm gonna tell everybody I did it. And both Donna and Boyd are like, nope,
Absolutely not. Stop it.
nope. And Donna's like, it's not enough because it doesn't change, that it happened in the first place. And also there is either something horrible growing inside of Fatima or else this place has finally broken her mind. Either way, it's only a matter of time before it happens again. And Boyd's like, they can stay with me. She won't be a threat to anyone else. Like, I'll watch her. Me and Ellis will watch her. And Donna tells him, like, no, they both may want this to be okay. And God knows she wants it to be okay too. But if he's not going to tell everyone, then she will. And Donna walks out.
I think she's 100% correct in that. Like, this is not something that they can just shove under the rug and pretend it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, especially with, like, the fact that they don't know what what is going on with her and what's triggering all of this and, like, whether it is mental or something about this play. Like, there's too many variables happening for them to be able to just, like, "Well, we'll figure it out. We'll make it w" No, absolutely not. And so Boyd starts to walk out and Ellis asks him, like, What are you doing?" And Boyd tells him, like, "You're gonna need supplies." So he's on board with them being out in the tent. Um, so Victor, Tabitha, and Sarah all head to the church basement, and Victor is kind of going through that day again, and he says, when he got to the bottom of the stairs, Jasper was telling secrets, and Christopher got angry. But then Victor says, like, no, that's not right. It wasn't Jasper. It was the boy in white.
Cue gasps from everybody.
Right, because it's such a like because the boy in white has definitely been talking to more people and showing up for more people, so it's not surprising that it was him, but it's interesting.
Well, especially considering that, like, for the most part, what we've seen with the boy in white is him helping or, like, being like, "Oh, here's something you didn't know about," dropping, like, little things for
Mhm.
people, but nothing so far that's bad. But we know that Christopher had been kind of getting weird and crazy, and then again, Victor is a very unreliable narrator, but it sounds like Christopher had something to do with the massive deaths.
Yeah.
So it's
Yes.
like, oh, is this the first hint that the boy in white is bad? Or did the boy in white realize that that cycle of whatever potential saving, if it is a cycle, whatever. There's so many, like, I don't know if this is real or not, or if it's just a theory, but like, did he see that it was going to fail and is like, all right, gotta wipe the slate clean?
Mm. Well, and that's the thing too is like we don't know if Christopher was the thing that caused all of the that caused all the people to die, but we do know that, he got angry or he got obsessed with the symbol, he changed. And then Victor assumes that that's what happened. But Victor doesn't I don't think Victor really knows.
No, I don't think he does either. And even if he thought he knew, we've already established he's unreliable because
Yeah.
his memory isn't quite there.
Yeah.
So,
And he probably didn't draw it. So
yeah,
So the boy in white says, because I mean, I think what the boy in white says here is very a good thing. The boy in white says the answer to the end, or the answers to the end are at the beginning, that it's the children, what the others did to them, the people who, or the people they loved, the people they trusted. He said the children were born in the dark and then they were murdered in the dark. But someone who loved them told them a story. The story gave them hope, and when the children laid on the stones, they poured their hope into the roots that made the symbol, and those roots became the tree, the faraway tree. So we know how those exist now. And the boy in white was trying to. So like I think that that's good information, right?
I think it goes over my head.
We'll see in a few episodes. Uh
Okay.
So the boy in white was like telling this to Christopher, like to that he had to save the children, or that to save the children he would have to go through the tree. But Christopher wouldn't listen. He got angry, and because Christopher wouldn't listen, Victor took that information and told his mom, and that's why she left them. So it's interesting that the boy in white was telling this to Christopher and not to Meredith for some reason. Um, but no damn wonder this is why he blocked this memory. It happened the day that his mom and his sister disappeared and died.
Yeah, so he blames himself for his mom going and not making it.
Yeah. So out at the shed cabiny thing, Elgin is walking up and he calls out to Fatima, and that's all we really kind of see about that, but we do see then Ellis and Boyd walking back to that shed cabin with supplies, and they're talking about the plan. And Fatima and Ellis are going to stay in a tent, and Boyd is going to leave them supplies every few days at the shed. And he also tells him, like, you let me know if Fatima gets worse or, like, if you ever feel in danger. And Ellis tells him, like, I know that you don't want me to do this, but if you had the chance, if you and mom could have ran even after she did what she did, what would you have done? And Boyd doesn't answer, but they keep walking. But I mean, he ain't wrong, you know?
No, he's definitely right about that because we all know that Boyd would have tried to save her.
Yeah, because he would try to talk her down even after she shot people. So yeah. But when they get back to the shed, they see the doors open. So Elgin and Fatima are walking, and Fatima's a little worried. She's like, "Aren't we a little close to town?" And Elgin's like, "Oh no, no, we're going to the root cellar. Ellis is there. He told me to grab you and bring you here. Like he's waiting down there. There's a room that no one knows about, and you guys will be safe there." And Fatima's pretty skeptical still, and she's kind of concerned.
Yeah, I mean, she should be.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
very concerned because I know that Ellis isn't there.
yeah. So she calls out for Ellis, like they get down into the root cellar and she calls out for him and she doesn't get a response. And she's like, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to the shed and wait for Ellis. And Elgin's like, no, you can't go. He's you don't understand. You have to be here. It's the only place that the baby will be safe. And Fatima says, like, there is no baby. And Elgin kind of chuckles and says, yes, there is. It's just not yours. Ha ha ha.
Does that mean?
So this rightfully freaks her out. And she tries to leave. But then like a big, like massive pain in her stomach hits her. And Elgin tells her, like, see, the baby knows you have to stay here. And she still tries to leave. Like, she even shoves him at one point. She's like, look, I'm manhandling you. I'm getting out. But her body is kind of attacking her. And she starts to like crawl up the stairs. Like, this was a crazy scene.
Oh, it was
Um,
hard to watch.
but like Alice is like, no, you can't. And then like, I'm sorry. And he grabs her leg and pulls her back down. And he's like, this is for the best. And she's just screaming help. And that is the end of the episode.
Uh,
So we got
I
a
hate that.
wild ride on those last 2 episodes, I think.
Yeah, and I know that, like, the next 2 episodes are the obviously the finale and the penultimate episode, but they're,
Mhm.
like, part 1 and part 2, which I'm like, "Oh, shit, that means it's gonna be a lot."
Yeah. I will be honest, a lot of people were not happy with the end of season 3 because they didn't feel like they got enough answers. I thought we got some answers. At least to the questions I wanted to know about. Now, granted, there are still a lot of questions. You are not gonna fit all the answers in 2 episodes. But we did get some answers.
I like being prepared that I'm not gonna get all the answers because it would piss me off if I was like, "Yeah, let's go figure out what all this is," and then didn't get enough.
Also, I mean, here's the deal. We've always in this show walked into a finale getting a few answers and then getting a lot more questions.
Or a bus.
Or a bus. Or a
I
or a voice over radio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I'm expecting a plane to land in the town.
But I do think I don't know. I really liked this season. So maybe I'm biased.
I think I've liked most of the season, I've told you this, but, like, the whole baby plotline is not I don't enjoy that plotline. I feel like that's just, like, there's so much else going on. Do we really need that?
Yeah.
And maybe I'll figure that out when we when the baby is born, if it ever is, or, like, once we learn more about what's happening with that, but I'm just kinda like, I don't like it."
Yeah. No, and that's yeah. I will never spoil anything for you. But I agree cuz there are things that I want answers for and that I know you want answers for that realistically we are not going to get answers for this season.
And I know we're never gonna well, I can assume we're never gonna see a monster climb one of the sides of the houses.
You know what? I have yet to see it. I have yet
I've
to
been
see it.
I know there's only, like, 2 more episodes that are out, so I'm like, it I don't think it's gonna happen in those 2, and you've just confirmed it won't, which you just said you were never gonna spoil something.
You know that I feel comfortable spoiling that.
Fine.
Maybe
Uh,
season 4.
maybe season 4. I'm
I
losing
can't wait
hope.
until we're both on the same page and then I can say all the crazy things I think.
All your theories, and you can hear all of my theories that I've been wrong
Yes.
about every single one of so far.
I know, you've been fine. No, it's one of those that, like, there's so much going on, but that's the thing is, like, I mean, I think it's fair to tell you that, like, I know you want answers about the effigies. We're not getting that this season.
Yeah, I don't think that one I'm like, they've barely touched on the freaking effigies, so I feel like that's just a setup for next season,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, because I want some answers. I wanna know more about those, like, what? I wanna know more about that thing that was creeping around that cabin that isn't the monsters, like, I wanna know more about that, but we're not
Also,
getting
like,
that.
how do they know that it's not the monsters? Like, do they just walk differently? And, like, what do you mean you can know without seeing it that it's not one of them?
Yeah.
People are like
Yeah.
bloodhounds.
So there's no windows on that cabin.
Yeah, which also is weird. Why isn't there a window?
Yeah.
Whoever built that was not thinking about, like, sunlight and seeing monsters outside.
That's true. So, but we will get some answers, so it'll be interesting, but, I know there's a lot going on, so we've got all the baby stuff that you hate.
Like, I don't care about that. Move on.
We've got we got Elgin, it tied in with that.
Yeah, I do
Um,
wanna know about that. Elgin, what are you doing? What are you
yeah,
doing, baby boy?
yeah. We've got, what's going on with Julie and her, you know, timey-wimey business. We've got, the Jade's whole numbers and magic trees and
Yeah.
all the things, and Tabitha and her saving the children, and we at least wrapped up, Victor and Jasper, so we know that now. So he can the boy we somebody put Victor down for a nap.
He he probably needs to sleep 10 hours right now or
Yeah.
more.
So we got a lot, but I think the next 2 episodes I'm excited for you to see. I can't even remember what happens in which episode, so I'm like, there are things that I'm like, "Ooh, this might be the next one or it might be the one after," but I remember there was a lot of stuff in these last 2 episodes.
No, I'm ready. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, I think we're ready to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for listening to Oh, I Found a Weird Show, and we can't wait to continue the recap next time. Bye.
Bye.